So if everybody can see my screen okay, you can see the SimpleSoft. I'm going to go through just a really quick agenda here for today. Our focus is really going to be on covering Infor CRM SLX version 9.2. There's some great new things. And then, so that's going to be the biggest part of the demonstration. So we have, I'll introduce Ed in just a moment from Infor, but we'll go through a demo of 9.2, and then we'll recap some of the things that were new in version 9.x. So we'll talk about 9.1, 9.0. There's some great stuff that had came out in both of those versions. And we've been talking to a lot of our customers about upgrading. We have some upgrades in process and we have some pending, but a lot of the great features. I think 9.0 has been, I would say, and Ed, you can confirm this, it's been one of the most solid, reliable versions we've seen in quite a while. Not to say that Infor doesn't care about quality, but they've just really been very, very good. And we've been very pleased with that, and so have our customers. So, and then after the demonstrations, I'll close by just talking a little bit about SimpleSoft. I know most of the people that we invited are customers, but we also invited some prospects and some companies we worked with in the past, and talk about our approach, and then hit on Q&A topics. So let me move on and just introduce myself. I'm Don Manrisky. I'm the VP of Business Development for SimpleSoft. Ed Heinches is going to be doing the demonstration today. You can see, if you've got your video on, you can see Ed. Ed is a longtime employee of Infor. I think you've probably been there. I think is it 15 years this year? I think
we're getting close. We're getting close.
I think so. So you and I have known each other quite a while too. So always a pleasure to have you here. I think you'll do a great demo. So let me just show the slide. What we really want to focus on with 9.2 is a new customer journey for contacts, accounts, opportunities, and leads. And something I think many people on this webinar are going to appreciate are the improvements to speed search. So that's a feature that I think everybody has the need. Everybody that uses CRM, whether it's for sales or marketing or service and support, they have a need to find data. And general lookups are great, but speed search improvements are really phenomenal in this version. And then the administrative stuff, I think we should touch on those in the 9.2, and that'll be the focus. I just want to quickly show the 9x recap and 9.1 and 9.0. I'll come back to this. So I think, Ed, well, let's do the 9.2 stuff first, and then we can talk about some of these things in 9.1 and 9.0. You think that sounds like a good idea?
Works for me.
All right.
Steal a screen here.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. So first of all, thanks for having me. Always appreciate being able to see, meet and greet, and talk to everybody on different levels. So we did do a webinar yesterday, so thanks for giving that little commercial, Don. And there is a webinar series, so I'll do the same commercial here that I did there. If y'all haven't joined up to the users group, the Infor CRM SLX users group, you should, right? So in this demonstration, we'll give Don a chance to go muster up what that URL is so everybody could join up, and you can get in and become part of all the stuff that we do. And Don and his team and everybody are part of that, so they contribute as well as consume the stuff that we put out there. And part of it is this new webinar series that we're doing, and everything that we do will end up out on that site, so you have links to be able to go back and look at the videos or the trainings, or just the different things that we're doing, just to try to get the word out and make it so you have a little bit more information accessible to your fingertips, right? So I think Don is absolutely right. The 9, I mean, I have been doing this for a really long time. So when I came on board with Infor CRM, it was way back in the very first or second 7X release, right? So that's a long time ago, to be perfectly honest. And now here we are at 9. So I have lived through lots and lots of different versions, and I can pick my favorite versions, and I can pick the versions that I wish I could have skipped, right? But we are at the 9.0 release, or 9.2 release, and Don's right. For whatever the reason is, the 9X releases as they've come out have seemed to be a little bit more solid, and fewer, hey, we have to fix that bug, or we missed that, right, where we did in some of the prior releases. And safe to say that all of those things do get fixed very timely, but sometimes when you go from an older release to a newer release, you don't want to fall into something, wow, How did they miss that, right? And we don't have any of those things going on in the 9.0 release. And so from what it is, what it's all about, when we talk about 9.2, there's kind of a rhyme and a reason for a lot of the things that we're bringing to the table. And whether it's important to you or not, right? It's important to understand the direction, right? Where are we going with the product? So not only are we talking about 9.2, but it's important to kind of get a grasp and a picture of the stuff that we're doing and where we're going. And I can't remember what I did with it. Oh, it's right here. Where we're going with the platform itself. Some of the things that we have absolutely put into the product, some of the things that are in process to be put into the product, and what's the rhyme and reason behind it, right? We're trying to make it more usable for people to administer their own environment, right? So Don and company do a great job of helping you, training you, teaching you along the way to do it, but sometimes you just want to be able to do things by yourself. And so we're making that a little bit easier with some of the stuff that's being rolled into the current releases and the next releases, right? So you can see, Don teed it up perfectly. Customer journey stuff over here on the left-hand side, right? Customer journey stuff, speed search stuff, some administrivia things that have been pushed out into the product to make it easier for you to use the platform. Moving forward, looking to 9.3, excuse me, which is supposed to come out in July of 2024. That's the other thing that we've been much better at too. We've actually stated when something's going to get released, and we're actually hitting those dates, which is kind of huge for us. So in the 8 timeframe, we didn't do a very good job of that. So anybody who was around and said we're going to roll something out, we missed it. We seem to miss it every single time. Well, but we're not missing them now. So I appreciate that. But in the 9.3 reign, we're doing things to continue to fortify. This is something else that we've gotten much better at. We would roll out a new feature, so that would be version 1 of the feature, and then we would never get around to making it better, right? So a great example of where we finally picked up the ball is when we originally rolled out workflow, right? Workflow came out in 8.5, right? And when it came out, we had a version of it that you could do some things, and you had to do it kind of in a list view. And that was one of those ones that said, yeah, we're going to continue to update that over the years. And to be perfectly honest, I wrote that down on my little list and said, yeah, we're never going to go get around to making that better. Well, here we are in 9.2, and workflow is incredible, right? The editor that works with it, the amount of things that you can do, the things that we heard from our partners like Don's team, and even our customers that said we need to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and we've already incorporated in there. So we're listening, we're learning, and we're putting things into the product constantly. So stuff that we could do, a lot of people don't even know that under the covers we're using Crystal Reports, right? But the version that we were using was really, really old, needed to be retired. Well, guess what? We finally upgraded it in 9.2, so the latest and greatest version, which is kind of important. How do you create your standard tabular reports? You do it in Crystal, right? That's when you do it inside of the CRM. So we fixed that along the way. The job server is even much better, but when we talk about 9.3 and beyond, you can see on the list, right? AI has suddenly become the buzzword of 2024. Everything has to be AI compliant. So CRM, obviously for us, is part of that play. And that falls into the overall architecture of what's happening with Infor products, right? So if you're familiar with Mingle, right? I hope some of you are. It's now been lovingly renamed officially to Infor OS. I like the Mingle name, but Infor OS now has AI components built inside of it. We're building all of that stuff off of, of the Amazon AI. So that is Alexa. Alexa, stop. Right? She's listening all the time. And so we're building the features and functions to start to be able to do all of the AI things that you could ever want to do inside of the CRM. So that's coming. We've been thinking about it for a long time now. Now we're starting to implement. So we are really paying attention to all the things that are going on there. So if we jump into the platform, what are the things that really make the new version stand out? And I could easily, take all the wind out of my own sails and jump up to speed search up here. But I'm going to do that a little bit later. We'll save that till later. But you can see right away that the new speed search actually has an icon that'll let me do a drop down, and we'll get into what all that stuff does later. But the big picture of things is, and I'm going to jump into, and did I preface this? Did I? I might even have one up there, right? So No, I don't. So let's just go into, well, Abbott Worldwide would be fine. Right, we'll jump into Abbott over here. And one of the things that I like to point out about what the customer journey is all about, it is the evolution of something that's been in the product for quite a long time. And a lot of people don't know it. When you look at an opportunity, and do I have it up here? I need to pick one. All right, we'll jump into an opportunity here. So hopefully everybody's seen how you drive around and know what to get there. For the new people, anytime you want, we can most certainly do a top down all the way across delivery through what a what the CRM looks like. But if we jump through in here and we look at what we called the sales process, right? I always called this guided selling, right? So this is a little bit of the old. Don said he was going to talk about the old and then talk about the new. Well, this is a little bit of the old, right? So sales processes have been in the system for many versions, right? And it's the ability to what I call guided selling, to say, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to send out an email, right? So things that I could guide my team to make sure that they're following to get through a sales cycle, right? And a lot of times these were built based on interviews and things that we've learned from our top salespeople, right? They tend to have this process that they go through to be successful. And it's nice if you could capture that and give them steps. Well, what we've done along the way is we've now given you the ability to create a journey. And actually, I should jump down actually into the journey itself. There's a pretty little picture of what the result is. But if I go way down here into the bottom and I say, hey, let's look at customer journeys here for a second. The customer journey for an opportunity looks a lot like the sales process, all the way through the point, though, of I now get to incorporate all of the other bells and whistles that we've added to the process. So a sales process on steroids, if you will. I can actually have things that require me to do them as usual. I can actually have them attached to a workflow. That means if something happens during the journey, I can kick off an entire workflow, which could cause notifications, records to be updated, records to be created, things to be pushed over to ERPs. I can make things happen now, which I couldn't necessarily do as easily. I'm not going to say you couldn't do it, but not as easily as you can now in the old sales process. So this is an evolution of what that is, and it gives me visibility into where is a particular account, contact, opportunity in the journey, in their journey that you can define. So as I see through here, it is an absolute process. And what have I got? I've got a couple of activities. That means create the calendaring event and make sure it gets done. So a note in history could be added out of here. Here's a mail merge. What are we doing? Oh, we're taking a thank you letter. So automatically we're going to send out the thank you letter, which will be, it truly is a mail merge, right? Thank you, insert customer here, for coming to insert event here, right? You get the idea of what a mail merge is. So we do all of that stuff out there. Do I have one that's calling a workflow? Yes. So the proposal generation, there's a whole workflow that I've created that will help me generate a proposal. That's a workflow process. And you can even put approval processes in here and stuff like that. But it's nice that it's married to workflow and other things, notification stuff that live inside of the entire CRM platform, right? So the goal here, again, if I jump back to my opportunity, I was actually already on the workflow, so, or the customer journey, so I can actually see where I am in the step and the stages that go in here. So I can actually see as it goes through here, and we get a good grasp of what is the journey that this customer is on. We've created dashboards that go along with this as well. So if I go up here and look at the dashboard side of the house, I think I've got one up here in my dashboards. So from a dashboarding perspective, we have the ability to look at everybody who's in a journey. And that begs the question of, too, if I look at my opportunities, there's my Kanban opportunity dashboard that says, here's everybody that's in the journey right now. So I can see everybody who's in my prospecting stage all the way up to the ones that are in the decision stage. So there are real numbers that come out of these particular opportunities that you can display up here. And this thing is true, or will be true shortly. I think you saw it in the slide coming up, that we're going to be able to do this for campaigns and tickets, and right. So we don't have the dashboard just yet, but we do have the ability to create those journeys so you can actually start putting them in there. And this is just a new way of looking at where people are in the sales process and helping you guide them through, and help your team guide them through whatever a sales process looks like. So it's pretty exciting stuff. So this was also one of those ones that I went, great, we've got the customer journey. Are we going to do anything more with it? And the answer is we are. right? So we've already started to upgrade that one and make more capabilities built into that stuff. So I appreciate.
And Ed, right in the next version too, right in 9.3.
Correct.
Because for tickets, I think we've in the past, SimpleSoft, we've had to create customizations to support a customer journey like feature in ticketing. And now it's going to be built in, and that's just fantastic.
Right. And that's it, right? We're trying bigger, better, faster, stronger, right? Always showing my age when I say that. So somebody their mind will click off where that actually came from, right? But so when we talk about speed search has been around for a long time, and it's always been very, very good. It might have been a little bit confusing, but it's always been very good. And I laughed the other day. I was in an older release that a customer was working on. I went into speed search expecting to be able to do what I do now. And I'm like, I brain locked for a second, couldn't remember to get what I was trying to do, because you can still go get it in the old versions. You just had to work a little harder. But here, one of the things we've done is right away, you can actually determine what indexes do you want to use. So anybody who's used a prior release knows the only way to do that would have been to actually do the speed search and go into the advanced features to be able to go select what I want to use. But right away now, I can select what do I want to include or exclude out of my searches, right? And the ones on the top, these are the ones that I most frequently have used in my queries. So first and foremost, easier to decide what do I want to search through, right? Sometimes it's not as efficient, or you just get too much stuff on the screen if I decide I want to use everything to be able to go do a search. The other thing we've been screamed about for a long, long time is if I start typing, right, it should catch up here and say, oh, type ahead. Do you have anything in the system that meets that criteria? And of course, if we do, then I can actually hit the search button, and now I get a brand new looking results field. And much like the rest of, well, this really started in 8.5, but much like the rest of 9, we've started doing things with style sheets, right? So speed search, this is phase 1 of incorporating style sheets into how we can actually make the visualizations look. So that means it's going to make it easier for you guys to change the look and feel of this with just style sheets, right? Whereas before you know, Don and his team would probably have to roll up their sleeves and do some pragmatic things to make it look different. But pretty soon you're going to be able to do it with style sheets to move things around. But right now, we've given you the ability to pick your indexes, you know, collapse the things that I don't necessarily want to see so I get a better view of what's out there, and then be able to look at the indexes and see, here's a bunch of stuff. And if I hover my mouse over the matches that I found, I can see where was the query, right? The search that I looked up, where was it matched in, what am I looking at? I'm looking at accounts, right? So the other thing I'm looking forward to, which I was told is coming, is soon I'm going to be able to take the sections and move them around, right? If I want if I want quotes to be on top, I'm going to be able to drag it up on top, right? I've been told that's going to happen, and I think it will probably happen. If not, I'm going to be sad, right? Put on my sad face. The other part of the way that the speed search used to work is you could only go 10 indexes deep, and that would have been on everything, right? So then you'd be cut off. You get a lot of feedback, but you could only use 10 indexes. Now it's 10 per entity, right? So that means now I can go get a whole lot of data, and you can still get down and change what your search methodology looks like, and you can change how the thesaurus works. These are the advanced features that you would have to click an extra button to get to when you're looking at the old version of speed search. So speed search, bigger, better, faster, stronger. Really appreciate the stuff that we're putting into that too. And we're, again, just going to give you flexibility in how it looks and how it feels, right? So excuse me. So some of the administrivia things that we're bringing to the table, there is a rhyme or reason for that. And the rhyme and reason is we're trying to make it so you don't have to jump on to a server to do things anymore, right? So a lot of people who roll up their sleeves and do this themselves know that they have to RDP onto, if they're on a cloud, they have to RDP into the server to be able to do some of the things we're going to talk about right now. We're just making it easier to do them, right? So activities and being able to realign my activities is something that was server side, had to go into the architect or the LAN client actually to be able to do some of those things. But if I go into activities right now, and a realignment of an activity basically is, hey, they were assigned to me, either Ed's not here anymore, or we just want to hand them over to Don, right? We want him to be able to do them. So I can quickly come up here and say, hey, all of these activities that have not been completed yet, I want to go over here and say, reassign all of these activities, boom, 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 right? So I can make that happen really quickly. Before, you actually had to get on the server to be able to do that. Now, boom, one more thing that we brought over so you can do it right here from the LAN or from the web client, right? Other things from an Administrivia thing is, hey, we want to be able to see, and I meant to log in to have other people logged into the system, but I forgot. So my apologies for that. But I can go in and actually look at, from the administration perspective, I could go look at my users, and from the user side of the house, I can actually say how many people are logged in. Right. Well, right now it's just me. I meant to log in and get a couple different people logged in so you can see the list. But now you can actually see who's that person who keeps leaving their terminal logged in, right? It keeps forgetting to log out. That is if you're not using the already available feature that says, hey, log out after 5 minutes of inactivity, right? So that's a security thing. Everybody should be using it, but we know sometimes people don't want to ever do that. They don't want to have to log in. But if they don't, or you do, you can actually go out here now and see who's part of it, who's gobbling up that particular seat from our CRM, right? We've also done things from an Office Profiles perspective where we've given you the ability now to do some license management types of things, right? What are the licenses that I actually have? I can also update my licenses from here. That was something, again, you had to go onto the server to be able to update your licenses. No longer have to do that, right? You still have your license keys. They still have to be applied. You can update them right here, right? So you can also see which licenses. So for my little demo server here, I got an awful lot of licenses. Never can honestly say I've never really looked at all the licenses on my demo server, but I got a lot of them, right? All single count, but got a lot of them that they're out there, right? So we've given you the ability to look at what my licenses are and what the availability is. And maybe one of the things I asked for is, to show me when they're going to expire, right? We have the one that's going to show if they're expired, right? But I'd like to see the date on them to say when they're going to expire so I can plan ahead, right? That's one of my gripes that I have with my cloud ops stuff is my certificates expire on a regular basis, and I just have to keep a tickler that says, don't forget to update your certificate, right? But if I had something that showed me, that'd be fantastic. And the other part that we've done as well is you probably noticed that I was in my more tabs over here when we jumped in here, is you have the ability to create and define the auto assigns for tickets. So when we say auto assign, that means if I say that this is a problem and it's a financial one and it's an invoicing problem, I can automatically route that to Don to make sure that he gets it. I can also change the urgency levels and the timings that are available. Again, a process that you absolutely had to do from the server side of the house. So we keep going piece by piece, right? We're adding all of those admin features that you needed to get on to the server to do, and we're bringing them all over onto the web client so you no longer have to have that. And pretty soon there won't be any left, and we'll be pretty happy that people won't have to RDP onto the server. I mean, I'm pretty excited about the things that we've done just moving the product forward, and I could go on probably for hours showing you all my other favorite things here. But Don and I agreed that I was only going to look at a couple things today, and then we're going to hand it back to him. So I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to hang on. I'm going to be here for the rest of the time. So if anybody has questions, comments, or want to see something specific, more than happy to jump around to it. But other than that, let's hand it back to Don.
All right, let me go back to my slide presentation here, and we'll pick up where we left off. Thanks, Ed. So again, focused on 9.2 to start with, and coming back and really talking about some of the other changes that have been released, because again, knowing that a lot of our customers are on version, a lot of customers are on version 8.4 something and 8.5 something. So, looking at really being focused on 9.0, I wanted to touch on for 9.1. So 9.1, these are just a handful of the major improvements that came out with that version. History, entity, main view. This is very important. So just like for activities, you can go in an activity view and you can create groups and lists of all of your activities. You can now do that with history. This was very important for creating dashboards because without an entity main view, it's very difficult to create a dashboard. Now you have filters and dashboards, a lot more useful and functional for creating those types of dashboard views. The other one, Ed's already touched on the CRM workflow improvements. As he said, Infor created the workflow, added it into 8.5, made improvements in every version since. And in 9.1, they added a new designer tab. You now have the ability to there's a graphical view you can drag and drop in building the workflow. That's very, very cool stuff. Additional development tools too. This is a big one. I know for 9.2, Ed, you mentioned that the job service is more reliable than ever. There were always cases in the past where sometimes you would have to restart that job service, especially when you have the integration with ERP solutions. So in the past, you had to log into that server, like you mentioned, but now you can do that. In 9.1, Infor introduced the ability to restart that service right in the web client administratively. So made it a lot faster and easier to do. So those were the main things in 9.1. In 9.0, Infor introduced the usability improvements, the ability to change colors and themes, the change the layout a little bit of the account detail account main view and the contact main view, but also added the ability to add account contact images and adding a company logo. In the past, if you wanted to add a company logo, it really required development, and at SimpleSoft, we would do that quite often. Another nice new feature in 9.0 were the list view KPIs. So, groups, everybody loves groups. They're very easy to create. Groups and filters were awesome, but you never had the ability to perform any math. If you wanted to do sums and averages, you had to take that, export that group to Excel, and then apply some formulas and sums. But now you can do that with the KPIs, and those are actually configurable and customizable. Also in 9.0 were email and attachments and library files. So you used to be able to do it in the LAN client years ago. You could go to a library file and you can send an email, but you couldn't do that in the web client until recently with 9.0. And then some of the other things in 9.0 were improved lookups. An example of that would be when you search for a phone number, it now searches across all the phone numbers for a contact and lead rather than just a specific number like a work number or a mobile number. You can enter a number once and it will look in multiple of those fields. And the log menu, the new log menu was nice, and of course mail merge improvement. So those were some of the just high level updates in those versions. Again, if you go to our website, so simplesoft.net/blog, we have more detail on all of the features that were released with screenshots of all of the things in I think 8.5, 8.5.1, 9.0, 9.1, and 9.2. So we have all of that detail in there. So what I want to do at this point is I just want to ask, is there anything here that somebody would like Ed to show us today? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask to see a demo of any of these items here for 9.0 and 9.1.
The workflow, Don.
You want to take a look at workflow?
Yeah.
That's a great suggestion, Solby. If you didn't ask for it, I was going to ask somebody. I was going to ask Ed to show it too. Sure.
So workflows are things that obviously can do all kinds of features and functions, and they live right. This I will say this is, and I should put my camera back on so you can see me. Right. So this is one of my things that I keep saying is we've buried the workflow right too deep in it. Right. I should be able to get to it easier. So hopefully in one of these next releases, we buried it way down here in integrations. And if I say workflows, right. Thank you. Don't know what that's all about, but I was already in my workflows, but I have a bunch of workflows that I've defined out here. So I'll show you one and then we'll start one. So I have one that does an update based on stages, right, that I was working on. So I have a trigger for the workflow that says if the stage that the opportunity happens to be in is demo, then I want to fire off this workflow. And then this workflow then has a whole bunch of steps that go along with it. One of them is an extra test condition to say, if the sales potential is greater than 50K, then I definitely want to continue on with this, right? So a demo could be moved into a certain stage, but we still don't want to do anything with it because it's only worth $10, right? So, but now it has a worth of greater than $50,000, which means, okay, now we actually want to do something with it to be able to determine what happens. So if the opportunity is greater than $50,000, then I go ahead and I send out an email that says the opportunity has been created. And I send out an email based on a template that I've defined. It's not a pretty one, right? But it gets the job done. It tells me, hey, here's what the opportunity looks like. And then based on fields that I can put inside here, they come right out of the CRM. So I can kind of do a mail merge right here. And then you get to determine who it's going to. So for me, demo environment, I don't have any dynamic names going in here, but you could put @ names in here. So if I jumped up here and said, hey, I want to put in right, pick up one of my group, right, the channels department, the sales manager, right, I could go pick any one of those out there to be able to make the email go to it. So it would be more dynamic, right? But I'm in a demo world, so I hard coded my emails in there. So that's a process that can go through here, and all the way to the point where I'm creating a record, a notation, a history record inside of the CRM to say, hey, the new opportunity was recognized. We sent out an email to notify the account manager so they don't miss it, and we've noted that inside of the CRM. That too is something that you can configure to say the opportunity has been noted inside of the system, right? So entity updates, right? So how are these guys created? Well, let's go to the beginning here, and I'm going to say, where do I want to go? I want to go back. You got to hit the button to make that happen. I got to figure out what that's all about, but I can say create a new workflow. Right, so create my workflow. Got to have a name for it, has to have a description that goes along with it. You do have to define what you're going to work with at this point and pick an entity, right? You can do cross-entity workflows, but in the beginning, it has to be triggered off of something, and usually that is a top-level entity. So if we set account at this point, I want to turn on and turn off. So anybody who built a workflow in 8.5 knows, right? One of the bugs that was out there, if you forgot to turn these on right here, you could never go back and turn them on. So you needed to have somebody jump onto the server and go into the database and toggle that switch for you. We fixed it, right? So I'm going to say OK right here, and it's going to create my blank workflow, right? So now I've got my webinar workflow. Let's go into it from down here. And I'm not planning on building out a big one, but we have the start point here. And now here are all the things that I can actually do. Right, I can create workflows that do an approval process, meaning I can have different criteria that says, and a good example might be, I've created a quote, right? And we see this happen all the time. Our sales team, they try to go out and create a quote and give somebody a 25% discount, and they're not allowed to do that. So we might have a workflow and a rule that's built in place that says, hey, if somebody tries to give a 25% discount, we want to fire an approval process. So the approval process then opens you up to be able to send out approvals to managers and whoever you need to send it to, and that's the way it goes out. You can call business rules, right? So this is right up Don and company's alley. They probably created all kinds of business rules through their history, and those business rules can do some pretty magical things, and we give you the ability to call those business rules right from within a workflow. Pretty powerful stuff. Creating an entity, that means in the workflow, if I ever need to create a new account, contact, lead, opportunity, or anything in the CRM, I can create it from the workflow, right? As long as I have the criteria and the rules in place that I want to do. Obviously, you've seen that I can send an email that goes out there. I can terminate or stop a workflow. When would you stop a workflow? Is maybe when you've branched out and started a couple of different branches of the workflow. So I want to definitely stop one and say, this one's over. Right? So that would be a stop that goes out there. You can also update an entity. So the notion of updating an entity is out of the box. If I fire a workflow from an account, let's say from Abbott Ltd, by the time I get down to the update entity, it's going to be associated to that. So I can then do an update which says, update, pick your fields that I want to update and change the data that's inside there. So imagine if you have an approval process that's pointing through a business rule that's gathered some information associated with a particular account. Now you can fill in all that information automatically in the back end, right? So some tricky things. Creating activities, accounts, or phone calls, meetings, and to-dos, right? Calendaring events that you can trigger and have them created. Create the history record. You saw me do that as well. Start an extra workflow. So if I have multiple workflows going across, right? So the tree can go long ways or it can go wide ways, and you can fire up other workflows from within the flow of something. I do a true or a false, and based on a true, I want to fire up a completely different workflow off of this tree. You can do that, right? And then of course, test conditions. That is exactly what it implies. I can use a test condition before anything else happens, and in there I can test for that condition, right? Is the account start with the letter A? Is the account in California? Is the opportunity greater than $50,000, right? You can think of all the cool things that you can do from a workflow process, right? So without building one, they're pretty easy to do, pretty tough to break things, right? So if you have access to, if you're in 9.1, right, or even have 9.2 already, I'd say go give it a try and put some together.
So you integrate this with your email server within the application?
Right, and that is one of the requirements too. So from an Administrivia Office Profiles, one of the things that you're going to do is you're going to define, and do I have one in here? There it is, right? So mine is connected up. What am I using? I'm using Outlook.com as my email, but if you have one internally, obviously, you can use your internal mail server, but you do have to have one defined in the CRM to be able to do the outbound notification stuff.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's pretty standard stuff, so you'll be able to manage that yourself, Solby.
Yeah, no, Ed, thank you. Everything good other than Pittsburgh Steeler favorite there at the top.
I am a Steelers fan, that's for sure. Usually I'm sipping out of a Steelers cup, but today we're not doing that.
Ed, we're going to have a conversation. I'm also a Steelers fan.
There you go. I like what we're doing so far.
You guys can hash it out at the onsite.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, you'll get a chance to meet Dan in Tampa next month, so that'll work out perfect.
That'll
work out perfect. So thank you, Ed. It was a great overview of workflow. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to see? I mean, I mentioned the list view KPIs. Has everybody seen the list view KPIs? Has anybody sat through some of the recent Infor webinars? I mean, those are really cool too. I think that those are awesome. We've got about 20 minutes left, and we're going to go through Q&A, but now is your opportunity. Please ask questions. What would you like to see in some of the things that I showed in my bullet list?
What do you mean by KPIs? I apologize.
So the key performance indicators, and yes,
Sure.
Ed will show you those right there at the top of the opportunity group.
Yeah, so we've added those to pretty much all of the entity list views, and there's little KPIs that live all over the place, and sometimes people forget that we actually have buried them in, right? A good example of that, and we'll come back to this one in a second, but if I jump back over to the opportunity that I was looking at, right? Oh, that's the new, no, that's the workflow. This one right here. No, that's not what I wanted. Killing myself. Let's go into opportunities, right? We'll just grab one. Right, so from a workflow perspective, right, when we go and look at an account or an opportunity, and we look at all of their different opportunities that live out here. Well, what am I looking for here? Oh, here it is right here. I always forget where I even put them, right? So we've already given you some views into KPIs that give you a little picture window up here of what this particular opportunity looks like, and different things that we can see from an opportunity level, from a KPI version of their accounts, right? How many do I have open? How many have I won? How many have I lost? So these are KPIs that just give you an instant snapshot view. So when we're talking about opportunities and we're looking at them from a list view perspective, right, I can create those little KPIs that say, hey, show me, different things. So here's a great example, right? I'm looking at the win rate. I defined that as one of the KPIs that I want to see, right? So a bunch of them that we've built out of the box. Can you create your own? The answer is you can, right? But these are the ones out of the box. So I selected, I wanted to see the close probability, win rate, and the average sales potential. And when I did that, I was probably doing that against all opportunities, not all my open opportunities, right? Because a win rate basically means the opportunity has been closed, right? So you do have to pay attention to those things. So now I'm looking at all of my opportunities, new ones, old ones, open ones, closed ones, whatever they happen to be. And so now I have things. My average sales potential for all of these guys is here. My average win rate, 68%. That's not too bad for an average, closure rate. I'd say that's pretty good. And we can see what the average close probability is on the opportunities that are still open for us. So KPIs are things that you can get and use as a small barometer that says, how am I doing, right? With opportunities, accounts, pretty much everything inside of the CRM.
That look good, Solby?
Yes,
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, sure. Thank you. So any other questions? Any other things that you'd like to see on the list that I provided?
I see
not.
this version has been, what do you call it, drinking the soda water from Infor. It's all Infor looking.
Well, that is the right. That is the rule, right? Right.
Previous
So
versions don't have it so
I can change
specific.
colors if you don't like the red, right? We're all in for red at that point, so I can change my color up here to make it different, or I can also put me in the dark mode, right? So I'm not quite so in for E, right? So you can change the look and feel a little bit.
Okay.
I like the high contrast. That's what I always use that as a high
That's the one I
contrast
use too.
mode.
Although my boss really does not like the high contrast mode, right? Her preference is actually, and the difference there is just the wide open spaces. So if I go into an account, right, this is the high contrast. So I can actually see the field outlines versus if I stay in the light mode, right, it's just all light. Now, of course, if you run your mouse over things, you can see the fields.
Well, I will tell you, we had a difficult time with one customer who said, I want to see the fields. They literally wanted us to roll back from 9.2 to an earlier version of the form so they could see the outline of the fields. And I said, look, high contrast, you can see that. And then they were satisfied with that. But that's a big thing for a lot of people is that view of the data, the ability to see individual fields on the screen.
Yeah. And we've cleaned a lot of things up. I mean, a lot of people don't recognize because they may not live in it as much as I do, but we cleaned up simple things like before, if I had search windows, like see this the magnifying glass, it was really difficult to get all that stuff to line up for whatever reason. It just didn't really line up very well. So again, style sheets give me the ability to change that, move things from the left side to the right side, and just be able to create a much better experience for the users based on style sheets and colors. And right, we're just making it easier because right, some people like the light mode, some people like the dark mode, right? Everything up here, this guy is dynamic as well. I can change this logo pretty easily, right? That lives simply over in the Administrivia Office Profiles section. So if I look in the Office Profiles, right, the general, I just drag an image and pop it in there. But we've also, you saw that in the account record logo, you can put that up in there. That's been around for a while. Same thing in the contact side of the house. I can absolutely add contact pictures to it. So it's always nice to put a smiley face out there based on who and what we're working with. So we're doing, I think we're getting better and better each release.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So any other questions before I switch back to my presentation? All right, let me go ahead and share that again here. So thanks again, Ed. We had a chance to take a look at some of the features here in 9.0.9.1. And again, I'll mention it one more time. You can go out to simplesoft.net on our blog, and we have more detail over all of these versions back to version 8.5.0. So next slide, I really just wanted to, and this slide is really for the attendees today who aren't as familiar with SimpleSoft, but I wanted to mention that, we are an Infor CRM partner. It is the only product we sell and support. SimpleSoft has been working with this product back in the original days when it was owned by Sage, and before we started working with this product in 1999. And it is the only CRM solution we sell. So our goal is to become a trusted partner with our customers, both as a business and technology consultant. So really our value add for everyone is really our expertise with Infor and integration with the ERP systems. We've done, I don't know, hundreds of integrations with ERPs, both Sage ERPs as well as the Infor ERPs over the years. So that's really our core business, okay? And our approach is treating CRM as a strategy. It's not just a software tool. We like to promote the proper use and management of CRM. That comes down to data management and leveraging data analytics. Ed talked a lot about analytics at the beginning of his demonstration, and also helping customers to just use the product properly. So we really focus on educating all of our customers, providing training, both system admin and user for the sales functionality, the marketing, the customer service and support. We even provide developer training for those customers. There are a few, but some want to be trained in the development, and we do provide that service as well. So again, our goal is really to work with you forever for the life of your use of CRM, as long as that may be, hopefully for a very long time. So back to the end here of my presentation, Q&A. Are there any other topics that people would like to see in the future? CRM workflow, these were just a few that I thought would be very helpful. Advanced groups, filters, and dashboards are always very popular, and we would love to schedule more webinars to cover just those for an hour. So I encourage you, either speak up now or feel free to send an email to myself or anyone on the SimpleSoft team. You can even use our support email to send that information.